Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along to the sixth and final round of the respective Rotax Max Challenge Latvia and Rotax Max Challenge Lithuania seasons, along with Tillotson T4 Latvia and also the Latvian Karting Championship. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, live and direct from the Algarve circuit here, around about an hour's drive from the capital city of Riga, as we have a lot of action to take place over the course of the next day and a half. We're very shortly going to get into time qualifying, as we do have some tickets to give away to this year's Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals, which for the second time in 3 years heads to the sands of the Persian Gulf, the Bahrain International Karting Circuit in Sakir, right opposite the main Formula 1 circuit, between the 2nd and the 9th of December. Titles are up for grabs. It's fight or flight here in Latvia, and what's more, this 1060 metre circuit is going to provide a twisty and challenging test for all concerned over the course of the next day and a half. The format, for those wondering, we're going to have a 5-minute time qualifying session for Micro Nano, which is basically the way that things work in the Baltics is that Nano is to help drivers get accustomed to the Rotax Max Evo engines before they move into the Micromax class. Also, with the beauty of this championship is that you also have amateurs running alongside those competing for those prestigious Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals tickets. So we'll have Nano, we'll have Micromax, we'll have Juniors, Seniors, Minimax, Max DD2, DD2 Masters and Tillotson T4. Each of the categories will go into a 5-minute time qualifying session, and from that session, what then happens, that decides the grid for the heats. The heat will be, it's one heat apiece per class this afternoon. And then tomorrow we'll have the pre-finals just after 10:40 in the morning local time, so it's Eastern European Standard Time if you are watching from the United Kingdom. An hour behind us, you will be in continental Europe, and then we'll have the finals from 2:30 tomorrow afternoon to around about 5:30, and then at 6:15 tomorrow afternoon we will then host the awards ceremony, and at 18:35 Latvian time, we will hand out those prestigious Grand Finals tickets to those from Latvia, Lithuania, and also a bit of breaking news on the Rotax Max Challenge Latvia social medias earlier on when we announced that I was coming back to be here in person, is that we're also going to give that to some of the Estonian drivers as well. So realistically, folks, what can we expect? Well, you know what? I have to say a big thank you to Yanis Karašuks for giving me a shout again. He's been an absolute diamond, and of course, Yana, his wife, obviously with Lukas, the newborn. Yana, we know you're watching. We missed you. We hope you were here, but of course, we know that you're going to be keeping an eye on the action. We are live on the Rotax Max Challenge Latvia Facebook page, as well as the just to let you know that we are going to be having an issue with the live stream, so we will be back very, very shortly as soon as we can, folks. We'll be back with you as soon as we can. Bear with us. Well, thank you very much for bearing with us, folks, because we're underway in the thick of time qualifying. At the moment, Senior Rotax out on circuit, and at the minute, the 357 of Artyom Sestakov leads the way on a 39.193, just 35 thousandths ahead of Estonia's Erik Markus Janimets. Romans Rodionovs rounds out the top three. Rodionovs won that incredibly chaotic Senior Rotax final back at Madwana. Ket Drobiseva is running in the top four ahead of Hubertus Budvidis. As you now see the track in its full turn number one, you can hear the noise echoing through the camera on top of the studio that we've got here just off of turn number one. They're flying through there at around about 95 and 100 kilometres an hour. But time qualifying has come to an end. Provisional pole sitter for the sixth and final round of the season. Latvia's Artyom Sestakov. Then it's Erik Markus Janimets. Ket Drobiseva running at the top three, covered by 97 thousandths. Oskar Savicki in the number 389 for Lithuania rounds out the top four ahead of Marta Spike with Romans Rodionovs in six. Some drivers still coming across the line, including Marta Spike in the number 366. She's placed fifth in that session. Sebastian Adari, seventh, ahead of Tonis Johannes Domingas, Hubertus Budvidis, Lado Kuhanidze from Georgia, Patrick Goimets, Eris Elskins, Atukaru, Henrikas Klepikas, Hanna Grete Suvema, Noyus Jarolaitis, Arunas Junkevicius, and Kalis Brigis rounding out the 18 strong. Marcis Trankalis is the only driver that's running in the amateur classification. What I mean by that is that we have two separate divisions for all of the respective Rotax classes. Apart from DD2 Masters, which I'll get into a little bit later on, we have amateur DD2, DD2 Masters, gentlemen amateur DD2 Masters drivers, and then we have the full-blown Rotax Max Challenge DD2 Masters drivers. So that is timed qualifying completed. So Artyom Sestakov takes pole position by just 35 thousandths of a second ahead of Erik Markus Janimets. Ket Drobiseva showing good pace all the way through the season so far. But a very warm welcome on the Rotax Max Latvia Facebook page and also the YouTube channel. Thank you very much for bearing with us during the technical problems that we've been having during qualifying. But I can give you a little bit of a rundown of exactly what has happened so far. We've had Nanos out for qualifying. As I was explaining just before we were having the technical issues a little bit earlier on, it is effectively a way of getting youngsters into karting. Now, Micromax is the youngest of the Rotax racing family. I do have to give a shout out for another Rotax event that's taking place, funny enough, over the Atlantic, over in Newcastle Motorsports Park in Indiana, not too far of the home of the Brickyard, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as the likes of the voice of the Grand Finals, Henry Baudet, e-karting news' Rob Howden, and kart chasers Zander Clements will be reporting live on this weekend's US Trophy Finals, which will also be giving out away tickets for this year's Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals that will be taking place between the 2nd and the 9th of December in Bahrain. Tom Strehler was on pole in the junior Rotax classification. Fastest lap from him, the youngster from Marope, in a 40.136. Then we look back at Micromax. Nanopole was Timo Stranseca with a 46.557. For the amateurs for Micros, it was Rodrigo Tarins, 44.477 for the number 77. And Jokubas Vaskelis in the number 24 took pole position for the top tier. 43.825. So the sun is very much here in Jelgava. This is the Ruritis racetrack, which is situated around about an hour outside of the capital city and spans just 1,060 metres. For anyone that might remember Madwana back in June earlier on this year, around about the same length but less elevation. It's very tight, it's very twisty, especially on the second half of the circuit. So we are now getting ready for our next class, and out goes Minimax with 5 minutes on the timer. So a total of 131 drivers are participating in this weekend's event, and it curtails what has been a very, very long road. Anekskaya in Lithuania was the opening round of the Rotax Max Challenge Lithuania back on the 23rd of April, and Kandava hosted the opening round of the Rotax Max Latvia Challenge season on the 19th to the 20th of May. And I know for a fact that we've got just around about 79 days until the grand finals in Bahrain, but we have got the Latvian Karting Championship Minimax drivers, and then we've got the Rotax Max Challenge Minimax drivers. So the drivers are now, they've already gotten out of the dummy grid, and the first lap time's coming in. Timus Besarika goes top of the pop, so to speak, 43.536. Kajus Kalinauskas a further 0.68 seconds behind, but Mikkel Grantins, the young Norwegian, no Theo Steindal here this weekend. Grantins goes second on a 43.772. We've got Marko Veveris and Marks Kononovs in the lower tier category. Doesn't mean that they're not going to give it their all. They're going to give it their all the way through this race weekend. Martins Valts in the 181, currently third at the moment on a 44.13. As Marko Plinta jumps to the top of the timesheets on a 42.123, 38 thousandths ahead of the driver that was second at Portimao last year in the grand finals, behind Martin the Mustang Marquez, Henry Baudet. You'll like that one because I'm going to clip that and send it to you later. Mayos Mazinas just 38 thousandths. Oh, Karalovicius in the number 134 has had a bit of an off-track excursion and is pulling the cart, the Birrell ART cart, off of the grass and back onto the circuit. That's one thing you don't want to have happen here in time qualifying. You've really got to be on the limit of adhesion. There's the 177, Mayos Mazinas on the Paralin chassis, looking over his shoulder. Right behind is the 191 of Kajus Kalinauskas. And things are changing at the top of the timesheets. Nemunas Volbekas and Adrians Tions. Oh, they're looking like they're getting racing already, as that's Marko Plinta, who's now dipped under the 42-second bracket. 41.932, 99 thousandths ahead of Lithuania's Mayos Mazinas, son of Mikolas Mazinas, who'll be in action later on for DD2 Masters. Adrian Tions jumps up to third. Pesarica down to fifth behind Volpekas. Martin Streber, Mikls Grantins, Rodrigo Kakas, Kajus Kalinauskas. Kalinauskas goes seventh. They are changing all the time. And Marko Plinta dips underneath, 41.8 seconds by 41 thousandths, 41.759 for the young Latvian. And there's the 153 getting the elbows out. That's very much for sure. That's Rodrigo Kakers running on the Energy Corsa chassis. Minute and 30 on the timer still to go as some of the drivers make their way through the very tight technical second half of this just over 1 kilometre circuit. Minute and 23 to go. Plinta leads the way, 41.759 as they will come out of the final left-hander and onto this very technical back straight, well, this very short, long straightaway, but you can see just the amount of commitment. The curbing can sometimes be quite unsettling if you impact it the wrong way. I have seen it before. Especially with Vic van Kampenhout at the B&L Karting Series. Walloped a curb too hard, and then all of a sudden the chain came off. It can dislodge that. As some of the drivers now making their way into the infield section, which includes the 141 of Timus Pesarica. Pesarica currently seventh at the moment through the penultimate left-hander, and now across, through the final left-hander and across the line. No one able to better Marko Plinta, but Rodrigo Kakas goes second. 41.821. Mayos Mazinas up to P3. 41.848. Tions just on the cusp of breaking underneath the 42-second barrier as we get into the final 15 seconds of timed qualifying. And this is going to be the last effort that these drivers will have to put themselves through a qualifying phase this season. Big thank you to the Latvian the LAF, the Latvian Automobile Federation, of course. Mojo, the tyre of choice for Rotax Power. The checkered flag is out, and Plinta at the minute is on pole. Adrian Tions went fourth and got underneath 42 seconds, 41.856, but was just 96 thousandths shy. Marco Plinter at the minute has the fastest lap time, a 41.759. Marco Veveris in the LKK division goes quickest, 42.455. As some of the drivers will now be shown the sign to slow down and head back into Parc Fermé and scrutineering. Every single result called by myself over the course of these proceedings will be provisional, pending any sporting and technical checks post-session. So we're getting into the second half of our qualifyings. So well done there to Marco Plinta, the 110. Running with SM Racing on the Tony kart, 41.759 was the fastest lap time in that 5-minute qualifying session. And that was for the drivers competing in Rotax Max Challenge Latvia. Of course, there are titles up for grabs this weekend, folks. Not just the Latvian title, the Lithuanian title, but also a teams championship, I understand. So there will be plenty of silverware to give out this weekend. And, of course, the final round of the Tillotson T4 Latvia, because next week the Tillotson T4 Nations Cup takes place between the 21st and the 24th of September in Spain at the Cartódromo Internacional Lucas Guerrero in Chiva in Valencia next week. Do happen to know that some of the Latvian drivers will be going out there. Also, some of the people that I know that are racing in the United Kingdom that have been using these 4-stroke karts, which provides equal opportunity, equal machinery for everybody, and everyone's in the same boat, same set of technical regulations. So it's really, really good to hear that different. It's more like. For those wondering what's the difference between a Rotax Max Evo 125cc engine and a 4-stroke Tillotson. Well, the Tillotson has more of a rumble as it saunters along. Very, very deep, very, very pronounced bass in the engine note. But also, the good thing is, they're the same chassis for everybody. They're the same engine for everybody. Ease of convenience of getting people into grassroots motorsport, especially with karting. And I have to say, the team at Tillotson in Ireland have done a fantastic job with it, growing year on year on year. And that just goes to show the might of the Irish, let's say. But yeah, shout out to the crew over there in Ireland for doing exactly what they have been doing for a number of years. We're coming up to our penultimate DD2 class. It will be DD2 up next. Or Max DD2, as it's more commonly known in Rotax racing circles. Of course, people have already qualified through Rotax Nordic and also some other competitions as well, such as the one-offs, including the Rotax Max International Trophy at Le Mans earlier on this year, which took place in the fantastic facility which I had the opportunity of commentating at for the 2021 edition. Right off of the inside of the Porsche curves. I mean, you cannot think of anywhere to place an international karting circuit that has also hosted the CIK FIA World Championships for Gearbox, so DD2, KZ, KZ2, and also KZ2 Masters, which through recently watching all the things that were happening over there. Of course, also Thomas Stolshamanis was also in action there, running with the Energy Corsa team. But there you see the very, very fast-sweeping left-hander here at turn number 1. We will have our heats this afternoon, then we'll go into the pre-finals and the finals tomorrow, which will then bring us to the end of the road to Bahrain. It really is one of those seminal moments where, for the grand finals, any driver that has competed in them before knows what it takes, and consistency does win you a championship and also gives you that opportunity, if you haven't qualified already for the grand finals, to get your ticket and to head to a circuit that has made a little bit of history in the grand finals. I mean, it was the first ever grand finals where the heats took place under the Bahrain sky and at night, and the circuit completely floodlit. I know Henry Baudet is looking forward to using his corkscrew reference at that track. And I'm looking forward to a little bit of news from me. I am actually going to be back at Bahrain. I will be part of the expert commentary team working alongside Henry, but I'll also be there to enjoy the atmosphere. I mean, the grand finals for me is a bit more of a social affair, and the reason why I say that is you get to meet everybody. You get to mingle in the paddock. You get to that big tent, and it's one of the best the best scenes in karting. You just cannot. It doesn't matter how many times you've gone to a grand finals, when you see all those brand new karts lining up, because of course the chassis partners, Praga IPK, Birol ART and Sodikart again have been announced as the official chassis partners of the 2023 Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals later on this year. So we do have, as I said, a total of around 130 drivers. We do have representation from Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Georgia. And now we can hear some engines revving. And now we go from direct drive to gearboxes. DD2, the green flag waves at the end of the dummy grid, and the drivers now get released for their 5-minute time qualifying session. Tomasz Birstins, this year's Nordic champion, has already booked his place to Team Latvia for the grand finals, as now the timer starts ticking away here at the Rulitis racetrack here in Jelgava. It's my 3rd trip to Latvia, and every single time I've come to a different circuit, I have really enjoyed the experience. A real big thank you to Yanis Karajuk and his wife Jana, who have given me this opportunity. Also have to give a shout out to Martina Stankovičius, who collared me a little bit earlier on this year and said fancy doing Nordic, and then you know what they say, the floodgates very much opened, and I've really enjoyed coming back over here again. So we're going to be waiting for the first benchmarks to come in. Zinkovičius puts in, well, Virus goes to the top of the timesheets. Vec Vargas now in the 455s, 455. Ricards Vec Vargas, 41.346. Thomas Rudokas last week was at Paul Fletcher International, running as a junior with the Birol ART Lithuanian squad. He's currently 14 thousandths behind Vec Vargas. Ragnar Virus, the 441 from Estonia, yet to book his place at the grand finals. Maxim Shurko, the young man representing Lithuania for the 435, has had a Euro Trophy podium this year back at Val d'Argenton. Oh, careful, careful Maxim, coming out of that final left-hander. There's Tomasz Birstins, and right behind him is Vec Vargas. Ragnar Virus goes top of the timesheets, 38.983, 0.12 ahead of Maxim Shurko. Now these two are battling it out for a title and for a ticket. Now Edgar Vilkans decides to jump into the party. 66 thousandths behind Ragnar Virus, the 441. Also runs his own karting coaching side of things, and seen quite a few of the Estonian representatives here in Jelgava with Kathletics. We had a discussion about that back at Ropatinovas earlier on this year for the second and penultimate round of the Rotax Max Challenge Nordic season. But Virus is upping the wick. The 441 now goes quickest, 38.680 seconds. Vilkans now edges ever closer still. Shurko's outside of the top 5. Now, interesting point is the fact that with the Lithuanian champion, well, with regards to this particular weekend, qualifying for, I think it's the Lithuanian championship, if you're in the top 3, scores your points. Bit like, I still remember DTM doing that a few years ago. So, right, Vilkans goes quickest, 34 thousandths faster than Virus. Janovskis, Shurko, Lokchmelis, Jean Zemis, Dennebergs, and now it changes again. Edgar Vilkans, top of the timesheets, 38.623 seconds. And it's going to be changing again very shortly. We've got 1 minute and 3/4 left on the timer remaining in this 5-minute qualifying session here for DD2. So Vilkans at the minute leading the way by 34 thousandths of a second. Norris Dennebergs in the 414, currently running P3. And Lokchmelis goes 7th. Drops to 8th because Shurko's gone P3. So Vilkans 38.550. Does Virus have enough in him to try and get past Vilkans for that pole position? For the heat a little bit later on. Their heat will be taking place just coming after at 7 o'clock this evening in Eastern European summer time. So if you're watching From the United Kingdom, it's 5 p.m. Central Europe, it's 6 p.m. And if you're watching in the United States and you're 5 hours behind, it's going to be 1 o'clock in the afternoon, just after lunch. So, improvements not made by Virus, not made by, well, Virkans is coming towards the end of his 6th lap in qualifying. Does the 4.77 improve? Yes, by a fraction. 58.546. I think Virus has ended his qualifying run early. He's just ahead of Shurko. Shurko is currently 2/10 off of provisional pole position with 20 seconds on the timer remaining here at Jelgava. So, Vegvargas, Lochmelis, Janovskis round out your top 6, covered by just over 0.22 of a second. Denneberg's 1/1000th off of 6th place, and it changes again. Vegvargas goes ahead of Shurko, dumps the 4.35 outside of the top 3, and there is the checkered flag coming out right now. And we're going to see whether Martins Janovskis, who's at the front of this 2-kart train, he's leading the 4.55 of Ricards Vegvargas as they make their way through in towards the final part of the circuit. Checkered is out. Are they going to be high, wide and sideways coming out of the final corner? As our flag marshal waves the checkered. Let's see if there's an improvement from these two. No, nothing from Janovskis. Nothing from Vegvargas. So Edgar Velkans takes provisional pole in DD2 ahead of Ragnar Virus, Ricards Vegvargas, Maxim Shurko, Patrick Knowles, Lochmelis, Martins Janovskis, Norris Dennebergs, Thomas Birsins, 8th ahead of Christian Zemes, and Vrisinkovicius rounds out the top 10, covered by 4.5 of a second. Mikelis Buka, Thomas Rudokas, and Elmars Mikkelsons rounds out the 13 competitors in DD2. We've got 2 more qualifying sessions to go before we head into the heats at just coming up to 10 to 6. You can see that the sunlight is starting to lower a little bit here at Jelgava. There's the DD2 Masters gaggle in the dummy grid, and once the green flag waves at the end of that, we will then have them going out for their 5-minute qualifying session. And then for those wondering about the format for the respective heats, well, for Nano and for Micromax, it's going to be 6 minutes plus an additional lap for their respective heats. Junior and Senior, 9 minutes plus an additional lap. Minimax, 7 minutes plus an additional lap. DD2 and DD2 Masters, 10 minutes plus an additional lap. And then with Tillotson T4, they will have a 6-lap heat to conclude today's action. For those wondering, when do the pre-finals kick-start? Well, it's going to be 10:45 tomorrow morning with the Micro Nano class, and then we'll run all the way through until about 1 tomorrow afternoon. Morning warm-up starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. You'll be able to catch all the action here on the Rotax Max Latvia Facebook page and also the Rotax Max Latvia YouTube channel. So if you haven't already on the YouTube channel, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, give it a subscribe, and also if you are watching on Facebook, please, please, please share the link, share the feed. It would be greatly appreciated. And that's really just that little bit of housekeeping from me. Of course, some of the drivers that are here this weekend did partake in the 4th and final round of this year's Rotax Max Euro Trophy that took place at the home of British karting, Paul Fletcher International, which was a pretty good atmosphere, I think, from my perspective as well. It was my first ever time actually commentating on a European Championship round on home soil. So, folks, we have got a couple of minutes, I would imagine, before the green flag waves at the end of the dummy grid. The sessions have been running actually ahead of schedule, I think, just to compensate for the light that is starting to fade. I mean, now the green flag is going to wave for DD2 Masters qualification. Right, 5 minutes on the timer, here we go. And this is where it gets very, very interesting for yours truly, because we have a combined 25 carts going out for time qualifying, which includes 14 in Rotax Max Challenge, and then we also have the LKKs, which are the amateur drivers, which includes the amateur DD2 drivers and also the amateur DD2 Masters gentlemen competitors. So Henrich Gruber has already qualified through becoming the Nordic champion at Arvete in Estonia in August of this year. So Martinas Stankovičius once again this year for the second year in succession. Close, but not close enough for the Lithuanian for taking the European title. But he is in the hunt for a ticket to the grand finals in Bahrain. I'm really pleased we're actually going back there. Mainly because, well, not just because of the atmosphere, but because it was the first grand finals after the global pandemic, where we didn't have all the families, the supporters, and all the cavalcade, and there was a lot of PCR testing, face masks. I remember that like it was yesterday. If anyone asked me how the Bahrain PCR tests were, well, the one ending up at Bahrain International Airport was fine. The two at the circuit was something I'd rather forget. But Stankovičius strikes early, 39.3 seconds for the 5.33. So with the Ukrainian flag on the Nassau panel of the Birol ART chassis. Eriks Kasparovics just under 2.5 tenths of a second behind. Armand Kanks in third. Rudis Klavins Pritsai round out the top five, covered by 4.5 tenths of a second. And Henrich Gruber goes up to P2, 39.255. He's always been at the sharp end, is Mr. Gruber, especially when it comes to the grand finals. Kristaps Gasparovics was the grand finals champion last year. Martinas did have an incident with Captain America, Derek Wang, who has qualified for, I think it's either his 11th or 12th grand finals this year. Most successful qualifier when it comes to all-time for the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals. Christoph Adams, 15 times, 16 if you include the unfortunately cancelled, rescheduled Grand Finals that were due to take place at Portimao in January 2021. There's the 5-4-1 of Eriks Kasparovics. His way through into the tight hairpin section here at Jelgava. He's leaning forward quite a bit just to carry that momentum forward. Drivers now making their way through into the top part of the circuit. You really get an understanding of just how technical. There's a lot of force going through the core of the body. Stankovičius now responds and goes under 39 seconds for the first time today in qualifying. 38.954. Gruber, Gasparovics, Mikolas Mazinas rounds out the top four ahead of Pritsai. Rudis Klavins, Rikards Kaunsims, Armand Skanks, Jurisalaitis and Romans Barans complete the top 10. Ivars Us just outside of the top 10 by next to nothing. Ahead of Martins Roris, Lukas Leonavicius, Margus Kingu and Evdenis Vitoios. I'll try and see if I can get that surname right by the end of the weekend. But we are heading into the final 50 seconds of qualifying. Stankovičius on a fast lap, Gruber on a fast lap, Gasparovics, Mazinas, Pritsai has just crossed the line and has not improved, just did a 39.7. Stankovičius 39.2, Gruber 39.4. So could the final throw in qualifying. The track temperatures are going to be a little bit cooler now that the sun is starting to lower a little bit here at Jelgava. And one of the biggest things is, as soon as the ambient air temperature cools down, more air, more colder, denser air goes into the radiators. Stankovičius, 39.029. He's aiming for another final push lap as he threads his way through the tight left-hander at turn 2. You know, it's hard on the brakes, down into first. These are only 2-speed gearboxes, unlike KZ where you've got 6 gears to contend with. Stankovičius again just neatly sweeping through the corners. Checkered flag is out for the session. And Stankovičius aborts his final lap. Gruber has done so. So Martinas Stankovičius takes pole position for DD2 Masters as the Tillotson T4s are making just waiting there. Oh, well, who was that jumping up and down? Was that Gasparovic? I think it might have done. He took third ahead of Mikolas Mazines. Henry Skruber takes second ahead of with Pritsai fifth. Rudis Klavins, Rikards Kalnzims, Jurisalaitis, Aman Skanks, and Martins Roles round out the top 10, covered by just under 8 tenths. Ivars Us, Romans Padans, Lukas Leonovicius, Margus Kingu, and Evtenis Svitoyus round out the 15 strong, covered by 1.8 seconds, 9 tenths covering the top 12. And that is DD2 Masters qualifying completed. We have one more timed qualifying session to go, and it will be the 4-stroke Tillotson T4s. And we've got 13 drivers set to take part in this final round. They've had a 6-round calendar as well, which included a couple of visits to Kandava, actually, funnily enough. Their season started on the 1st of May and then went to Kandava again about 3 weeks later. Madwana, when they joined the 3rd round of the Rotax Max Challenge Latvia season at on the 9th and 10th of June. Ropatsinova, they were also in action. That was for round 2 of our Rotax Max Challenge Latvia. My apologies there. Sorry, Yanis, I got that one wrong, even though I've got the information in front of me. Then Madwana, which was round 2 of Rotax Latvia. Ropatsinova, whether it was round 3 of Rotax Latvia. They also joined the penultimate round of the Rotax Max Latvia Challenge at Smiltene from the 4th to the 5th of August. So they have had a very, very busy time as well. They've got a 5-minute time qualifying session coming up. And then we'll get into the first of what will be 8 heats this afternoon. And we'll conclude things just before, I would probably say 8 o'clock local time here in Jelgava. Big thank you to the circuit for allowing us to host the final round here. It was quite funny that the jokes about British weather have already come out. Thanks, Jana. I have said to a couple of people, I have put a couple of euros in the meter, so the man upstairs is happy with that one. But for those that were at Martinas and the team from Birale RT Lithuania will definitely know exactly what I'm talking about. That when we had a thunderstorm at Paul Fletcher International last Sunday, it happened. It actually happened. We had 31 degrees Celsius at the home of British karting, and what's more, it was humid as soon as you walked out of the door. You thought you were getting fresh air, you got hit by the humidity of a Finnish sauna. So Tillotson T4 coming up next as we see some of the carts yet to be taken off of the trolley jacks. So with regards to all of the events, the actual pre-grid area closes 5 minutes before the official start of any session. So as I said earlier, there will always be provisional results called by myself here on the commentary position. For those wondering where I am at the moment, well, I'm on the outskirts of turn 1, and I'm going to name check somebody in the paddock, Carlos Kidikovs, who said, "Don't you think it's a little bit dangerous being there at the exit of around by the outside of turn number 1?" And I said, well, the thing is, motorsport is dangerous, and I'll be completely honest with you, it's not a bad vantage point, to be honest with you. I've seen some of the carts come through at like 100 kilometres an hour, and I've kept out of the way. I intend to do so for the remainder of today and tomorrow. So we are just waiting for just a couple of more moments before we get underway with our final qualifying session of this year's season. Up next, it's Tillotson T4. So they now fire up the engines in the dummy grid ahead of releasing Tillotson T4 for the final 5-minute qualifying session of the 2023 season here at Jelgava in Latvia. We might be in the middle of September. There is a breeze in the air, quite a cooling and comforting breeze, but there is sunshine up above. We did have a bit of a flyby earlier on today with some helicopter making a couple of flying passes just a few feet above the circuit. But the timer has started, and here comes the Tillotson Brigade onto the circuit. 5 minutes on the timer. 13 competitors here at Jelgava this weekend. Davis Almans, who actually, funny enough, I have to give a shout out. Follow me on social media after Madwana. Very, very quickly indeed. He gave me a shout out in his Instagram mentions as well. So very distinctive rumble from these 4-stroke engines. So wait to see what the first benchmarks will be in probably around about 30 or so seconds time, maybe even less than that. You can just see the twists and turns, a few hairpins on the infield part of the circuit as Zalmans goes in, 48.218. Then it's the 923 that goes through. That's Andris Klinkans. Then the 911 gets Labskalns, followed by the 925 of Elisabetta Soldier. And then the 919 of Daniels Petris Berzins goes P2. The 915, that is Christopher's corner. Rounds out the top 5, covered by 1.5 seconds, but Zalmans has got an absolute country mile. I think he might be trying to get back to Riga as quickly as possible with that lap time, as he's going to make his way out of the final corner. And goes in, 46.3. That's a blinding lap time there from Zalmans. Christianis Kauna goes second. And Gilles Dimitrevs was third until Elisabetta Solce goes P3, 4 tenths. Now it's changing all over the shop. Christopher's Kauna also goes into the top 3, 0.136 off of Zalmans, as we have 2 minutes and 45 seconds on the timer remaining in this final qualifying session. So 13 drivers, all covered by, that's got Dacia Rosberga at the end of the field at the moment, 1.593 seconds covering the 13 strong. And on that particular occasion, Zalmans improves once more. Zulcha, she goes second, 46.075. Andris Klinkans is now P3. Christianis Kauna, Gilles Dimitrevs and Christopher's Kauna round out the top 6, covered by just under 7 tenths. You can add to that Gilles Dimitrevs. Now the times are really coming down. Zalmans is the one that's really got the pace and has got clean air, and sometimes at the moment you can see that the average speed 78.64 kilometres an hour. That's just a shade of around 80 kilometres an hour, about 50 miles per hour. So close to a speed limit there. And Zalmans again improves. The 949 goes in with a 45.558. Zorch is still second. Dimitrevs, well, they both improve. Dimitrevs goes up to P3 on a 46.043. 90 seconds on the timer remains in this final qualifying of the season for not just Tillotson T4 but the entire championship. Top 10 rounded out by Rorov-Stoms Berzins, covered by 0.833 of a second. So how much pace has Davis Zalmans still got in that 949? Well, we're going to find out now. Another lap in the books for him, and that is another improvement. Every single lap, Zalmans is improving, whether it be by hundredths, whether it be by tenths, whether it be by thousandths of a second. A 45.514 second lap time. And it's getting closer still, because the 915 did briefly. That's Christopher's Garnet. And now it's going to change again. Barstin's up to P2 on a 45.610. Top 5 rounded out by Elisabetta Johanna Zolce, covered by 0.3 or just over 0.3 of a second, as Zalmans might be able to get another lap in. He's coming out of the final corner now. Head down, gets the aerodynamics going. Oh, 45.311. Berezins might be getting a little bit of improvement in the meantime. But Zalmans has been the tour de force on this particular qualifying session. Timer has expired. Checkered will be out this time. How much faster is the question that needs to be answered. Can Davis Zalmans go? Down the back straight away into there for what's going to be the final time. It's very deceptive with this circuit, that you've got a lot of technical, very tight hairpins. Berezins stays second. Christopher Skauner, Elisabetta Johanna Zolce takes fourth. Christianis Skauner yet to cross the line. And Zalmans, no, does not improve on his final lap in qualifying. But checker flag is out on the start-finish straight. That is it for qualifying here at Jelgava. And Davis Zalmans puts himself on the best foot forward for the heat coming up a little bit later on. They'll be starting the heat at around about 7:36 local time here in Jelgava. Zalmans takes provisional pole for Tillotson T4 Latvia, ahead of Daniel Peteris Berezins, Christopher Skauner. Elisabetta Johanna Zolce takes fourth, ahead of Kristianis Skauner. Andris Klinkans, Kirill Dimitrievs, Peteris Rusa, Gitslav Skauns, Martin Sritovs, Iveta Akmene-Kalne, Daci Grosberger and Rutolfs, Toms Berezins round out the 13 strong, all covered by 2/100ths shy of 1.1 seconds. That is qualifying completed. And in just under 5 minutes' time, we're going to have our first of 8 races here in this wonderful Friday early evening sunshine here in Jelgava. Up next, it's going to be Micro Nano for their first heat. So as you can see, 18.2 degrees Celsius, clear forecast, and we've got a 8 km/h wind, or 8.3 if you want to be pedantic, because what's showing on the graphics for those watching at home. Thank you very much for joining us on the respective Facebook and YouTube live streams. We are just literally seconds away from getting our first of 8 heats underway. It's going to be Heat 1, which will be the Micro Nano, which, as I said earlier on, is the youngest drivers. Well, we will have another category on show. We'll have the baby class, where we did I did get my first sort of eyes on the youngest drivers within the Baltics that do decide to do a little bit of karting. It's not so much a race. It's more a case of they go out there and they learn the different racing lines, and that can sort of like steal them a little bit. But the Nanos are out on track. Let's have a look at your starting grid for the first race of the final round of the championship season. So it's Micro Nano, it's Timas Dranseca with Domas Norkus alongside on the front row, with Jokubas Juozaitis rounding out the 3-strong grid. Juozaitis not setting a lap time in qualifying earlier on this afternoon. See that looks like Domas Norkus and also Juozaitis running with a tinted visor. Going to be very, very paramount at this point of the day, because as the sun drops down ever lower, one of the things you don't want to have happen is your peripheral vision being affected by direct sunlight. There are shadows along the way, as now the drivers, they have been instructed through the relevant Telegram channel. Telegram is another type of messaging service, as now Timas Dranseca saying to Domas Norkus, right, okay, just slow down, don't overtake me. This is the formation lap. We'll go racing when they drop the green flag. And I think Norkus might be looking a little bit sort of eager, chomping at the bit, ready to go. So it's going to be 6 minutes plus an additional lap for these 3 drivers. Then we really up the ante with Micromax up next for Rotax Max and also LKK, as the drivers now being told to slow. And again, it looks like Dranseca's directing traffic as they come through into what will be the second from last corner here at Jelgava. So it will be down to both Dranseca and Norkus to just control proceedings, as they now will go through into the final corner. Right, green flag in the air, it drops, we're underway. Good start by Juozaitis, but an even better start by Norkus, who leads the way going through into turn number 1. Hard on the brakes into turn 2. And then it's the short run into the slight bus stop style chicane, a bit reminiscent of Watkins Glen in the United States. Then it is a case of just negotiating the twisty stuff. So 3 karts, and at the moment Dranseca is at the back of the field as they make their way through into the infield, the far part of the circuit. Cheers coming from the sidelines as they make their way through into the final corner. So after lap number 1, your race leader is Domas Norkus. Juozaitis just under 0.4 of a second behind. Dranseca 1.2 seconds off of Norkus, but Juozaitis chomping at the bit through the bus stop chicane and then into the next part of the circuit, turning right into a hairpin. Norkus just trying to carry the momentum through, and also to make the back axle of that number 18 as wide as humanly possible, so that Jokubas Juozaitis does not have an opportunity to get through. Now into the hairpin that then brings them on to the final double left-hander, or the final left-hander, out of the final corner. Norkus still continues to lead, but now the gap has been dropped to just under 2.5 of a second. Dranseca fastest lap of the race, 46.847, closing to within 0.8 of the race leader. Oh, Juozaitis looking very, very racy indeed, and look to stick the nose up the inside of Norkus going through into the bus stop chicane. Now into the right-hand hairpin they go. Rotate the car. Now into the sweeping left. to carry the momentum through. Sometimes you don't always need to nail the apex, but it does sometimes help. So into the next right-hand hairpin before the last left-hander that puts them onto the start-finish straight. Uwazaitis has got to start doing some work, takes a tighter line. Norkus runs wide. Uwazaitis looking up the inside through into turn one. Is this going to be a change for the lead? No! Oh, Norkus had cojones of steel right there, kept it planted around the outside of turn one, and the number 18 keeps ahead, but Uwazaitis again, a little bit of a touch between the pair, puts him into the clutches of Timo Stranseka, who put it on pole position earlier on in time qualifying this afternoon, and Uwazaitis was 54 thousandths behind Norkus, and all that hard work that Jokubas Uwazaitis has just done has unfortunately come apart right at the worst moment, but we've still got 3 minutes. We're halfway through this heat for Micro Nano. We've still got 3 minutes plus an additional lap still to go here in this first race out of 8 here this evening, here on the ever lowering sunshine here at Jelgava. And Norkus now has extended that lead. It was 54 thousandths after the previous lap. It's now nearly 6.5 tenths after lap number 4. Norkus, fastest lap of the race, 46.423 seconds, and is looking to expand that gap. But Uwazaitis, we have seen in the earlier couple of laps of this race, closed up quickly to Domas Norkus. Last time around, did a 47.010. That was, of course, after the slight touch between the pair that nearly saw Uwazaitis' front axle go skyward. And Uwazaitis again in the braking zone, just really, really getting very, very comfortable. And now you can see it's less than a kart length between them as they head into the final left-hander. Lap 5 completed with just over 2 minutes to go. Uwazaitis has got that gap down to just under a tenth and a half and is swarming all over the back of the number 18, heading into turn 1. Looks to be tighter on the apex, going through into turn 2. Now into the chicane. Nicely done there by Uwazaitis. Norkus now knows, can feel the pressure from behind through the left-hand hairpin. Now into the right-hand, the right-hand hairpin. Now into the left-hander coming up. Another left-hander at this particular point of the circuit. Uwazaitis looks to do a little bit of a dummy there, and now looks for the inside move. Gets a little bit of a touch on the right front, courtesy of the left rear of Norkus, but this is allowing Timo Stranseka to close on in. Now about to complete lap number 6. Gap was nearly a tenth and a half last time. What is it now? 0.23. Uwazaitis has got the fastest lap of the race. Now he's swarming all over the back bumper of Norkus once again through turn 2. And can't get through into the bus stop chicane. Oh, a little bit, might have been a little bit clumsy there from Norkus. And there's Uwazaitis looking towards the outside. Now sweeping towards the inside of the right-hand hairpin. Uwazaitis now trying to make Norkus have an unforced error. You put too much pressure on somebody, they sometimes make an unforced error, make an uncharacteristic mistake, and into the left-hand hairpin they go before the right-hand hairpin, which then leads them onto the start-finish straight through the fast-carrying left-hander coming up. So 2 more laps to go, including this. Uwazaitis now just over 0.3 of a second, but it's in the braking zones where Uwazaitis is quicker to gain that time back, and look how much time he clawed up going through into turn 2. Into the bus stop they go once again. Uwazaitis all over the back bumper of Norkus. Stranseka is also closing in. Norkus is effectively the yardstick. Uwazaitis says, oh, well, let me see if I can have a nibble at the apple right about now. Stranseka has just lost a bag full of time, but was also a lot closer in the first third of the race. And Uwazaitis again just trying to close that gap on Norkus and trying to get through. A little bit of a touch between the pair, but the time has expired. 1 lap remains. Stranseka now has got Uwazaitis in the crosshairs. Just under a kilometre to go. Norkus leads the way. Uwazaitis round the outside at turn number 1. Is he going to make it through? Sidewall contact. Uwazaitis off. Uwazaitis off and spins. Stranseka, as a direct correlation to that, takes second position. But Norkus was very, very much in his right to hold ground, and Uwazaitis went for the Hail Mary. It did not pay off for the number 16. The drivers now make their way through into the final part of the complex here at Jelgava for what has been a very, very closely fought, despite there being 3 karts, folks. it has been absolutely captivating because they've all been very, very close. But out of the final corner, Domas Norkus takes the heat in micro nano by just 0.284 of a second ahead of Timas Dranseka. Unfortunately, Jokubas Juozaitis ending up on the sidelines and out on the final lap of the race. But that concludes micro nano heat. So Norkus has the psychological and physical advantage over the opposition, because that effectively will mean that Norkus will be on pole position for the pre-final tomorrow, and that will take place at 10:45 local time. So there you have it. First race in the books. 7 still to go here on Friday, early Friday evening here at Jelgava. Time now approaching 6 p.m. here in around about an hour outside of Riga. And coming up next, we have Micromax going into battle for LKK and for Rotax Max Challenge. Well, folks, now we get underway with our heat for Micromax. Let's take you through this starting grid for this one. So, after a very tight qualifying that saw pole position decided by 6/1000ths of a second, it's Jokubas Vasquez that leads from pole position ahead of Patrikas Jokius. Juris Pluksna and Oskaras Pikovas round out the top 2 rows. Remigius Kriaus Junas and Joris Zigimantas Stankiewicz complete row 3. Emilis Juozaitis and Emilis Kapkauskas complete row 4.